Cody and I'm going to be talking about the Scottsboro Boys. Okay, so the Scottsboro Boys. A train was headed towards Alabama on March 31st in 1931. The boys hopped on a train in Tennessee. The accusers, Ruby Bates and Victoria Price, hopped on as well. They all lived a hobo lifestyle in which they traveled in search of work. The 9 teenagers goes as follows: Charlie Weems, Ozzie Powell, Clarence Norris, Andrew and Leroy Wright, Olin Montgomery, Willie Robertson, Haywood Patterson, and Eugene Williams. At the time of their arrest on the train, the boys were aged from 12 to 19 years old. Scottsboro Boys and bias from the court. 5 days after the arrest, an all-white jury was summoned to hear the trial of all 9 boys. Haywood Patterson said the courtroom was one big smiling white face. A day after the first trial, the 8 older boys were convicted of gang rape and sentenced to 10 years or the electric chair. They didn't know what to do with the youngest, who was Leroy Wright. It was between the electric chair or life imprisonment. On the jury roll, black signatures were forged to show that African American men were a part of the jury. So that goes back to the all-white jury, so unfair court hearings. Later in the trials, in 1935, New York defense attorney Samuel Leibovitz pointed out the flaws and proved the evidence to the Supreme Court justice. Okay. Scottsboro Boys and unreliable testimonies from the witnesses. Victoria Price was the main accuser of the alleged gang rape committed by the group of teens. At the time of the boys' arrest, she was 21 and had been married 3 times. Her boyfriend at the time was a married man. This shows the lifestyle she chose to live. Again, earlier in the year, in January of 1931, she was arrested of fornication. Ruby Bates, the lesser of the 2 accusers, she always stuck to Price's version of the story in the first couple of trials. Later, in 1933, during a retrial in Decatur, she would testify that there wasn't any rape. This is supported by evidence that the sexual activity was from the night before the alleged rape. Price most likely came up with the rape charges to prove and prevent being arrested for being with African American men on the train or being arrested from vagrancy, which is hoboing. They are protected underneath the 14th Amendment, which states, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of its laws. So, under this amendment, the Scottsboro Boys were given the right to have a trial. And they did not get due process in the first couple of trials because there was rush. Again, it only took 5 days for the trials. In conclusion, the case ended up contributing an instilled mindset to the African American community to push for equality. Pictured here is Martin Luther King Jr., who would become one of the advocates of equality for African Americans. It also provided protection under the laws of the United States.